Next is another committee that we're looking at. This is discussion and approval of a teacher compensation committee, and I'll let Mrs. Zardi describe that as well.
With Act 10, we know that there are, and despite the fact that Act 10 is questionable at this point in time, we still feel like at this point we want to move forward with ideas that we had for looking at our teacher compensation and how we can improve the compensation that we give to our teachers and to be able to recognize outstanding performance. So the idea behind this committee was that we would take a good year to really develop the parameters for a performance compensation plan and then bring recommendations to the board on how to implement such a plan. I've been just getting online and looking at a lot of different models that are out there. Some have been in existence a very short time. Those that were started in the 1990s have been changed throughout the years. So I mean, there's a lot of information out there that we can look at, and I think that would be probably one of the first steps of this committee, to really research the models that are there, trying to find the things that we think would potentially work for us here in Tomah. I think one of the difficulties we're faced with, of course, is that we have limited finances. And so we have to keep in mind that we want to make sure that we are compensating all of our staff in an appropriate manner to ensure that they want to remain with us. But we also want to look at if there are ways that we can improve compensation for those people who, again, go above and beyond. So we're looking at, and again, these ideas were kind of brainstormed in board policy, but we're open to suggestions, recommendations. This is just a draft. 6 teacher representatives, and we talked about how this would strictly be, to begin with, a teacher compensation committee. We're not looking at support staff yet. Not that that couldn't happen down the road. So the teacher representatives, we would be looking for 2 individuals who have less than 5 years of experience, 2 that have between 6 and less than 20 years of experience, and then 2 that have over 20 years of experience. So we have a range of employees who have been with our district. We'd want a building principal, again, Mr. Gorder, myself, and probably 3 board members to sit in on that. And again, the board policy committee members are prepared to serve on this committee if there is no one else who is interested. And again, we would ask employees who are interested to submit their names, and then participation would be based on appointment by President McMullen. Now, these meetings we'd have at least once, potentially twice a month. And from just looking through, again, online, some of the other things that have been done, they really recommended having a meal, because you need to have time to really get to know one another, because these are not going to be easy things to be talking about. So we need to build relationships with the people who are part of that committee, and so eating ahead of time is one way in which we can make those connections and build those relationships. And then the formal, so we'd have a short meeting, or excuse me, short meal for half an hour, and then the formal meeting running for about 2.5 hours. So again, this is a draft. We're looking for any recommended changes or ideas.
Yes.
So move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve a teacher compensation committee as set forth in the embedded document and as described just now by Mrs. Zardi. Again, I'll say almost everything seems to be connected to board policy, and so much comes true, and I think a lot of this needs to be spread more widely than board policy. So that's why we did say board policy is prepared to do it, but I was talking to Mr. Hennessy, I'd like to know if other people are interested in doing some of these, because I think to the extent we can spread these issues across the board as widely as possible, the better it is. So I'm looking for approval right now of the committee, but certainly would want to hear from anyone who wants to be a part of this.
I'd be interested in sitting on it.
Okay. And people can, we're not going to decide it tonight, but just let me know or let Mrs. Zardi know. Any discussion, any changes or thoughts on the committee as it's been laid out by Mrs. Zardi?
Again, just so you know, from looking what other districts have done, there have been committees as large as 30 members who have worked on this, and then they've divvied up responsibilities. There have been committees about the size that we're recommending to kind of walk through things as well. So, I mean, if you felt that there should be more involvement, it certainly has been done in other places. So.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I thought this seemed like a manageable size. Sometimes you get such a big group, you can't keep focused on where you want to end up.
Can someone remind me if we have a motion on this already?
We do.
You do? In a second.
Pam and Gary.
Sorry. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and so the Teacher Compensation Committee is approved as set forth. And over the course of this week, if people could just contact me, Mr. Hennessy expressed his interest, but just let me know who's interested, and we'll start putting together the personnel.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you
for doing that work.